Okay, so in this tutorial I'm going to go through some of the basic constructions for families in Revit. And just to talk about this, the reason why they're called families is as you go through this and start to really engage Revit, it is a parametric modeler. And so what that enables us to do is to create instances and types. And so if you think of the way like a family actually develops, you have traits and characteristics that are similar to your parents, but you are still unique. And so what we're going to be able to do is to develop instances of different components, or in this instance, for what you guys are going to be working on, it's going to be a door, and what I'm going to be working on just in this demo is to show you guys a simple table assembly. But you guys will be able to see how some of the parameters can be instance parameters or type parameters, and those are really going to be informed by how you want to construct the families that you guys are going to be working with. So the first thing we're going to go through, and I'm going to go ahead and hit new. You're going to see in here, hopefully all of these loaded and installed properly. If they haven't, then let me know. I can go ahead and provide these for you as well. For all of the different family types, you guys will be utilizing a door family for the project that you guys are going to be working on. For what I'm going to be, pretty much everything else I think you'll be working on, unless you're developing a window or something like that, you're going to want to use a generic model. And so there are advantages to some of these other things like furniture and furniture systems. I really prefer to work with generic models, and really a lot of these other guys, that as you guys explore the software, you'll be able to interrogate that. So I'm going to go ahead and just double click on this. And once it pulls up, there's going to be some things that we need to talk about in terms of the interface. Okay. So the first thing we see here is we have this crosshair, and there's two reference planes that are indicating the center point of the model space for this. So this reference point is going to be key whenever we load a family into our project. So that coordinate is going to be the center of our model. So we want to make sure that we constrain things around that appropriately. So as we go through and model this, I'll show you guys how to set up that. And then over here we see essentially the same view layout. We have different tools though in the create. Instead of it being doors and walls, we have extrusions, blends, sweeps. So all of the modeling can be done with these 5 tools. It might not seem like that you could do that, but you can do that. So you'll model all of the solids, and then you can subtract from those solids using the same set of tools, only in void format. Okay, so literally everything can be done through these tools. You will find that you will have to be creative about how you develop some of those things and how you constrain some of those when you do some more advanced content. Okay. Over here, another key thing we'll be using is reference lines and reference planes. I prefer to use reference planes since they show up and you can constrain to other things and you understand how things work more intelligently. In our views, just like in the views that you guys have in Revit, you have a reference floor plan. And now what that's referring to, and I'll just go in the front view, and if you double click on your mouse wheel, you can go to the center of the model. This is going to be the ground plane, so everything is going to be hosted by a floor when you guys are getting in there. So if you have a 30-story building, and you're trying to put furniture on the 30th story, then your reference level you'll just set when you're actually in your project to 30th floor. But you'll still need to know where the ground is, so you can have things floating above it, but you need that content. Okay. And so we have 4 views, which essentially coordinate our 4 elevations. We have a 3D view, and then we have our plan view. And then if you guys are doing something on the ceiling, you can obviously do a reflected ceiling plan. You will never do any sheets in your families, ever. So we don't need to worry about that. And what you guys will be submitting will essentially be some of the interior elevations of your control room. All right, and so what I'm going to do, I'm going to go back to my reference plan, and let's go ahead and start drawing. So we'll just do an extrusion. And what we're going to do is when you're working in here, you're just going to generally start to draw, and then you're going to constrain the drawing. So I'm going to go ahead and just draw a rectangle, and you're going to see all the drawing tools that you guys can utilize. So I'm just going to draw that, and then I'm just going to go ahead and finish that sketch. So that gives me a solid. Now, as soon as I get in here, I'm going to go back to the Create tab. This is going to be a table that I'm going to lay out, and I'm just going to show you guys some simple constraints and load those into a project, so you guys become familiar with what a type parameter is and what an instance parameter is, because those are really the things you want to pay attention to. So I'm going to go ahead and draw a reference plane. And I'm going to go ahead, I'll just draw 2 of them. And then I'm going to go ahead and just use my dimensioning tool, and I'm going to set up some basic, really simple constraints here. If I select that dimension, I can click on this little EQ, make these things equal, and what that means is, will happen is, as I move this around, it's going to constrain to that. And it's automatically trying to figure out that I'm constraining to this. But let's go ahead and get this appropriately constrained. So I'm going to use the align tool, select your reference plane, and then select your edge. Then we want to lock that. Repeat that. Then we're going to go ahead and do another align dimension. And now we're going to go ahead and set up the width of this. Alright, and so if I just click on this tool, the family types, under parameters, I'm going to go ahead and add a parameter. And so I'm going to call this table width. And this is going to be a type parameter, because I'm assuming that all the tables that I'm going to insert in here are going to be essentially the same width for now. And I'll show you the difference when we actually are programming these in the actual model space. So hit OK. We're going to set that as a value, and we'll say it's going to be 3 feet is our table width. So we hit OK, or apply. And now when we select this dimension, under the green bar here at the Modify tab, we can pull this down, and we can set this up and go ahead and set this to table width. And now that's going to go ahead and be adjustable. All right. Now you can move things around, but the value that we put in that matrix is going to be what gets natively imported into the project. All right, and so you guys can obviously do a little rinse, wash, and repeat. We'll go ahead and just do that again. Ooh, I don't want reference lines, I want reference planes. Alright, and let's go ahead and make those equal. And then let's dimension that. So select this. Let's go ahead and add a parameter in a different way. So we'll call this table length. Again, that's going to be a type parameter, so hit OK. So it's going to be 6'2". That sounds fine. We'll go ahead and just align that to that, align that to that, and lock those constraints. Alright, so let's go into our 3D view. Again, mouse wheel, double click. So now we have our guy. Let's see here. Let's see if I can remember. There it is. Alrighty, and so what we're going to do then is let's go and start adjusting the height. So obviously this thing is just sitting on the ground, and we want this thing to not do that since it's going to be a table. So this will just be our tabletop. I'm going to go back and again start adding reference planes. And I'm going to give the table a thickness here. So, escape. Let's go ahead and dimension this. Pull that down, add a parameter. Now in this, for the table thickness, I'm going to go ahead and set that as an instance parameter so we can vary that when we get it into our project. So we'll call this table thickness. So hit OK. Alright, and then what we'll do is I'm going to go ahead and under the family values, I'm going to, instead of making that 5 inches, I'm going to make that 2 inches so we don't have. So hit apply, hit OK. Alright, and then what we want to do is we want to go ahead and align that to this. Oh, do that, sorry, wrong order. That to that. We'll lock that. This to that. Alright, and now we have our table is resting in a constrained model that is set by parameters. Okay. Now the last thing we want to do is we want to go ahead and I'm going to just set this up. We want our table height now. Is also going to be something that's going to be variable. So we'll go ahead and add one more parameter, table height. And again, this is going to be an instance parameter, so we can play with some of these things. All right, let's pull that up. And our table height, if we look at some of the other table heights, we have 30 inches, 36 inches, and 42 inches, and that's standard table height, counter height, and then bar height. And so let's go ahead and let's just set this to a standard height. So 30 inches, hit apply, hit OK. Alright, and so you can see how some of these constraints are starting to update now. Alright, so let's go back into our 3D view. Alright, and so now we have really nice tooling here. And I'm going to go ahead and draw some really simple legs on here just so we have a really nice complete model here. So we're going to go back into the extrusion, and I'm going to go ahead and just make this really ugly, but let's go ahead and just be really arbitrary about that. Alright, so then we will align this with that, and this with that. And then if we dimension this, actually let's go ahead and just drop a couple more reference planes in here. You guys will see how this gets pretty intense pretty quickly. Alright, and so then we'll dimension this. Oop. Escape twice. Let's add a parameter. Call this leg thickness. And let's make that a type parameter. Okay, so we will go ahead and so we set that dimension. We should be able to go ahead and set that to leg thickness. You can see that that's already starting to constrain. Alright, and let's go ahead and just you don't want to double dimension. It's just going to create problems for you. Alright, so then we come here and now let's do some aligning. Alright, so I think we're all aligned now. Hit OK. I have our 4 guys in here, and if we go back into our 3D view, this probably has a really arbitrary height. And so now we'll go into front view and constrain the top of this. So we'll go align this with that and lock that in place. So if we go into 3D view now, we should have a really ugly IKEA table. Alright, so let's go ahead and create a new project now. So we'll go ahead, and you guys will just be loading this into a project. So I'll go ahead and create it based on my architectural template. Hit Control Tab. And now I'm going to go ahead and load that into my project. And you can see that this is using the crosshair here. And I'm going to go ahead and place 2 of these because we're going to mess around with them. Escape twice. So let's go and view 3D. Alright, so now we have 2 tables. And I'm going to go ahead and just look at this. Oh, we want the north elevation. Alright, so let's start playing around with this. So we had set our table thickness and our table height as instance parameters. So when we grab this instance of the table, we can go ahead and set that to maybe 2 inches now. Apply. And now it's automatically going to update. So even though these guys are related, we can go ahead and set those things up. We can then go and also come in here and edit the type. The other parameters that we set up, like the leg thickness, say those legs are kind of beefy, we set that to 3 inches. Hit apply, and it'll automatically update all of the models. Okay? So we go into 3D. We can start to play around and constrain this. And adjust the constraints of this. Okay, and so this is really the power of some of the models in here that you guys are going to generate. So this is really simple family, but again, now you see where we have instance parameters and then how we can get in here and edit type parameters. So if we want to change the length of this to 5 feet, hit apply, everything will update. And then because we constrained, Control Tab back through my views, we constrained everything based on that center point. That's how it's going to react. So whenever we adjust that value, it's going to react on that center point. Okay? And there we go. Alright, and so what we'll do, I'm just going to go ahead and do some live adjustments here. So let's say we want that to be a 3-inch slab, hit apply, and there you go. Alright, and so what you guys will be doing, in the other demo I'm going to go through and show you guys how to use the void and the extrude tools, but that's essentially the task here.